Okay, I mean, I'm not sure I'm necessarily going to need 15 minutes, and in a way I'd rather speak for less time and get more input, because that's kind of the main reason I'm here. As you can maybe tell, and as I've explained already a couple of times in sessions, my background isn't in education at all. It's in, I'm an energy researcher based in London, and my funding comes from the Engineering and Physical Science Research Council. And the aim of this research, which I'm doing as part of my research masters before going on to do a PhD, is ultimately to reduce energy demand in buildings, and that's how I'm entering into this. But it struck me, and coming across this conference, that there were strong questions around agency, and I was really interested to kind of explore those further, hence my being here. I mean, a brief background to what I'm doing. You might be familiar with these devices like this called home energy monitors, and what they do is you clip them onto your electricity meter in your home, and then on the screen you can see what your house is using at any time. So when you put the kettle on, you see it goes up to 3,000 watts or whatever. And when people have a better understanding of how much energy they're using, they tend to use a bit less. Because normally people only get a bill every 3 months, and even that's estimated. So they have a very poor understanding of that. People are gradually getting these from energy companies, and over the next 10 years everyone will be getting one anyway, because everyone's meters are going to be replaced. But I mean, that's a separate issue. But quite often people don't engage with them. They just put them away in a drawer, don't like the look of them, or don't know how to use them, and ignore them. And I'd come across examples of schemes where primary schools had been involved in loaning them out to their pupils, sort of years 5 and 6, as part of environmental education, energy education programs, and the child is the one who introduces it into the home, and as part of a sort of homework task, gets the parent involved, because the parent has to help out by attaching it up and going around and helping the child use it and that sort of thing. And it just occurred to me that that's sort of that by doing that you've got the whatever learning advantages that might bring for the child as part of education, but that it would be helpful in sort of piquing the parents' interests and helping them to engage with something which previously just would have been a foreign thing which showed up at their door. Now it's coming from a trusted source from the school. So I kind of wanted to look into that, and my study at this stage is really just kind of as a pilot study, because as well as there being those attractions, sorts of things you can imagine would be beneficial about doing this, there are also concerns, like, for example, like any homework task which involves parent participation. If you look at the literature, that can be the cause of problems if parents have got very limited time because they've got many children, or both parents are working, and if that's not the case for other parents, then some parents can afford to spend lots of time helping the child with it. Others can't afford to spend as much time, and that could be a potential cause of resentment of a child, or a cause of disputes in the home. And there can be problems around using these things as well, like people feeling guilty about how much energy they use. And this idea that suddenly the child is, from having no interest at all in the home's energy use and energy bills, is actually now coming and saying, yeah, you should be turning this off. You're using too much energy, and that's another kind of cause for dispute. So I wanted to talk to parents, teachers and children about those, to raise those specific concerns, and to see if there were other concerns or other issues which I should be bearing in mind. So I've basically been working with a couple of primary schools in North London, talking, like I say, doing focus groups with groups of years 5 and 6 pupils, parents, not those children's parents, but separately drawn parents, and teachers, to get their thoughts on generally speaking, on the idea of doing this. I've been transcribing and using NVivo to analyse my results, and I mean, I'm going to be interested to kind of get some reflections of what people think are interesting in relation to agency from this. I mean, some things I sort of pulled out as potentially being interesting, first of all, was just that, I mean, for a start, all of the teachers, children and the parents all responded very enthusiastically to seeing this thing. I made like a little video and demonstrated myself using a hairdryer to show them how to do it. And having, I think especially for children, that they, the gadgety nature of it really appealed to them, and they'd been speaking a lot about playing computer games and watching television and that sort of thing. And when I sort of asked them what sort of things they would do with it, they immediately started saying about how they'd go around the home and turn everything on and turn it off, and find out how much different things used, and even talking about like taking it to youth club to sort of, I guess, see what things used there, but also to show it off, I think, to their friends. And that, well, in a way, it was encouraging to hear that they would sort of, they said that they would embrace something like this and start, I suppose, taking an interest in that sort of energy aspect of their home. Talking to the teachers, they had stories of how activities they'd done at school had fed through the child, like gardening, for example. One of the schools I work with has got a great sort of community garden, had fed through the child's interest. The parent, after resisting for quite a long time, had actually then become interested in this subject, the sort of, they'd eventually worn them down, I guess, and got the mum interested in gardening. Like that when she hated gardening, now she has a love for it. So it sort of implied that these things do go on in schools, if not necessarily in the energy area. But it was interesting to note some of the things which the parents group I was talking to had to say. I at one point asked, is it school's role to be sort of teaching children about this and getting children to act in this way, to be involved in this sort of question at home? And one of them said, they should have a childhood. It's not really their, we're the parent. We're the parents, or I'm the parent in this case. It's they should be kind of playing essentially and not getting involved in this sort of concern. They've got enough to worry about. I mean, this one school I was working with is kind of basically in an estate in North London, and as you can see from this panel thing there, the parents said they were stressed out with other things in life. They unemployed, had 5 children, like I said, and no money, in debt, and worried about their children going off and being parts of gangs, as they said, when they got to a certain age, and that they should, maybe even at this age, at primary school, they didn't want their child to be empowered in this way. Essentially, they wanted them to kind of just have fun and read a book or whatever. I mean, and one final thing to wrap up that I've been thinking along the lines of in relation to this as well, and agency, and whether actually this is any good as a way of engaging people more widely in energy use, is that, like I said, the children spoke a lot about enjoying playing computer games and watching movies and watching films and that, and they didn't want to, they associated being told to turn those things off, with negative emotion. They if that was the parent having a go at them, they kind of enjoy doing it. And when I asked them what you can do to save energy, it was always like turning lights off, and it wasn't changing those sorts of behaviours, which probably, as far as the child's direct energy consumption is concerned, are the main things. And the parents, I certainly don't think they would have been happy for the child to be just like, no, I'm not watching television anymore, because that was, I think quite a lot of the way in which, when they were getting on with other things like cooking and that sort of thing, the child was watching television, and they wouldn't want the child. I think they would act to suppress. Or it's difficult for me to say that, but that was the impression I got. If the child suddenly started rebelling against using energy in all forms, which I say, I don't think they would do. So I think there'd be things strongly acting against all of that. I mean, anyway, that's kind of what I've been working on, and what I've observed, and like I said, I'd be interested in any thoughts anyone has.